Yeah, so we're into the first week of March, and things are starting to pick up nicely now. The daily habits that the therapists have been doing, they're starting to really compound. So as I like to say, a phrase I've robbed, I can't remember who to give credit to, consistency compounds. And that's the case that we're seeing now in the clinic, is that the daily actions that we implemented at the start of February, they're starting to really compound now, and we're starting to see the outcomes be achieved that we want. So, Google reviews, they've had a massive spike, which is brilliant to see. Also reviews, referrals, the retention, all of that stuff is going in the right direction. One of the big problems we had in the last couple of weeks was there were some initial assessments who rebooked and then they actually cancelled. And we've been able to go 2-3 levels deep on this, really use our business systems to understand the symptoms, which is essentially the patient isn't rebooking, but then we've been able to use the head physio frameworks to get feedback on actually what's the true cause of that. And that information over the last two weeks, I've been really asking myself the question, right, how can we solve these problems at source? And the first thing that I was going to do was jump into a tactical solution, whereas I've spent a couple of weeks actually from a strategic point of view of, right, what can I actually do to stop this thing happening in the first place? And that's where we've come up with this week is a long-term strategy for the clinic. And it actually, the answer was there in front of me all of the time. I don't know whether I'm thinking more clearly now because I'm doing 75 hard or whatever it is, but the strategy is there in front of me, and it aligns perfectly with the vision. So we're going to take a big strategic shift now in the clinic, in the messaging that we're putting out there and it all starts with the person that ultimately that we want to attract, and really double down on that person. And the bits that we're going to put in, it's going to mean that it's going to attract a more difficult patient, but also it's going to put pressure on the therapist now. And that's my responsibility. It's Shane as the head physio, it's Sandra as the practice manager. It's our responsibility to make sure that we support the therapist now, and we give them everything they need to be successful. So again, it all starts with their scorecards. What's the metrics? How do we know if you're winning or losing? And then what are the daily actions that you need to be able to do, and the skills that you need to possess in order to be successful and hit these targets. And that's the biggest thing, that the biggest mistake that I've made for years. I've been in coaching programs, and loads of different coaches have told me about scorecard here. You need a scorecard for your physio. You need a scorecard here for your admin. And all that the scorecard said was, right, here's the outcomes. This is your job. But the biggest thing is actually that I've had to figure out the hard way is it's not just good enough with that. It all goes back to what are the skills that they need, but what are the actions that they need to do every day to develop those skills? And that's where, I'd like to think we're working smarter, not harder these days in doing that. So we've gone right back into the scorecards. We've gone, right, in order to get these outcomes with these difficult cases, what are the skills that the therapists need? What are the actions they need to do to develop these skills? But not only that, what does each therapist individually need now? And that's what we're getting really clear on this week, is what does every therapist in my clinic need? And Carl, our newest therapist, he's going to need a very different set of actions to develop the skills.
Yes. Sometimes when you do, I haven't done many rehabs, but do you have a little bit of a plateau in the middle?
Yeah.
So would that come in the third session, or and then they might be perceived that as a non-way of that progressed, or they want the money back maybe.
Yeah. So what's the true cause of that problem, Carl?
Probably not going through effective explanation again.
Oh,
maybe.
It's your skills,
right.
Isn't it? So this is going to identify, and that's the question I'm asking you today that I want you to go and think about, is what needs to happen for you guys to be confident to be able to do this with the trickiest of patients. But this holds me and Shane accountable to you two now, or to you four in particular, and Sandra Casey, is that everybody needs to improve. I need to improve, Shane needs to improve to get you guys up to the next level, to be absolutely stone confident with this. Because this is the pinnacle for you, isn't it? Like you've taught me pissed up, Ollie. You want to be the best physio you can be. That's it, isn't it? Now, I've said to Shane and Sandra, putting this out there, one of you might resign. One of you might leave this business because I'm doing this, and because it might worry you. That's a fact, okay? But if you want to be the best, we can't just talk about it, we actually have to do it and challenge ourselves. So that's up for me. I need to improve, Shane does, Sandra does, all of us needs to improve in order to do this basically, which is great because it means we're all going to continue to grow. As I said, you three, you're going to need, especially you two are going to need slightly different. Ollie, you're going to need slightly different to Carl with CPD and with what you need now to keep developing. And that's our job, is to keep pushing you and to keep you developing so that you're confident with this stuff basically. So what I want you to do for the next couple of weeks or for the next week is just have a think about it. And then on Friday, just send us an email about what you think you need next. Really clear on what needs to happen now from myself, my responsibilities as the clinic owner, Shane's responsibilities as the head physio, and then Sandra's responsibilities to the team in the practice as the practice manager. And it's the same with the admin team. You know, they're going to attract a different type of person. Have they got the skills to communicate effectively to this person as well, and put them at ease. So yeah, so a lot of work to be done. But I think in the grand scheme of things, getting to 220 patients a week, this is going to be massive for us because we're going to attract the person who we're really strong at. You know, and I don't say this to boast, what we're really strong at is helping people who have failed traditional approaches. And we need to essentially get our marketing message clear to talk more to that person. You know, with the greatest respect, we're not after the student who just wants a quick fix or the footballer who just wants 1 or 2 sessions. We want to make massive impact in people's lives, and we can give a lot more value to people for their money, for the people that have failed traditional approaches. So yeah, you might need 1 or 2 more sessions, especially when the pain eases, but the value that we give, it's a massively more to that person for the amount of money that they give us in return. And that's the key thing that I look at is, right, how can I increase the value to these people? But ultimately, if I can't give massive value for what we're charging, then I'm probably looking at the wrong person. And that's been one of the biggest breakthroughs for me. So yeah, so that's what we're working on this week. A lot of big stuff. I've been planting the seeds with the therapists. I've been asking them to ask a few different questions to patients to not only help get clear on that, but also to help the therapists this week as well in their subjective assessment. So getting some really good feedback from them on that. And then as I said, the other thing now is for me to go away and get really clear on what actions we need to take as a leadership team in order to support the therapists to achieve the outcomes that they need to achieve as a result of this pivot. Yeah, 75 hard is, we're into week 10 now, so week 9 was last week. After being away in Ireland for a week, it felt so much easier. So again, it's that perceived effort as opposed to actual is probably just changed more so than anything. So back into a routine, found it a lot easier. First Gaelic football match of the season as well at the weekend. So that was a challenge. I had 2.5 litres drank before the match. So I think I was probably the most hydrated I've ever been going into a game. It was nice to play a match without having any alcohol or excess sugar, anything like that in my system. The other team were late turning up. So I'd say probably done 2 or 3 45-minute sessions before we even played a match. And then I was able to add in a indoor mobility session prior to the game to get all of that. So that was interesting, juggling your Gaelic football with 75 hard and stuff like that, and getting your nutrition right before the game as well. So that was interesting. But yeah, so got 12 days left, I think, at the time of recording this. So I think I'm down about 10, just over 10 kg now. So I suppose it's trying to just keep the gains going over the next couple of weeks, and then having a look at then what I do after this. I'd like to ideally go into phase 1 of the program a couple of days after it ends. I think I finish on the Patrick's Day, which is a bit ironic. So when I was starting out, I actually could have started it on New Year's Day. I was actually treating a patient that night in the clinic, so I actually didn't drink any alcohol New Year's Day until like 8 or 9 o'clock that night. I had 1 or 2 bottles, which I didn't really even want, to be honest. And then I started it on the Sunday, which was the 2nd. Whereas if I started on the 1st, I would have finished the day before Patrick's Day. So that's a bit ironic, but it's probably worth it that I'm not going to drink on Patrick's Day really, and undo all the work. But yeah, I've got a birthday. My wife's birthday is this week, so the following week we're going down to Manchester for a meal. So I'll have, you know, a nice meal on the weekend, and then on the Monday then I might have a look at phase one and keeping it going, because I'm certainly seeing the benefit. Focus, clarity has just gone to a new level. The biggest probably difference from a leadership point of view and as a clinic owner is my strategic thinking. You know, strategic thinking, it's like, well, it's critical thinking. It's the equivalent of clinical reasoning for a physio, and the ability to critically think or clinically reason, you need a lot of bandwidth there, and you're using a lot of resources of your brain, obviously, rather than just going through the motions. So I think I've got more energy now, which is allowing me to critically think, which is allowing me to do a lot more strategic thinking, which I've always known I've needed to do more of that. But now I feel like I finally actually have the energy and the focus and the clarity to actually be able to strategically think, and even the decisions I'm making in the business. I've made two massive decisions, one for the clinic, one for the academy, on the back of 75 Hard, and that's a direct result of reading the books, and I think having the mental clarity and the focus to actually strategic think to come to these conclusions. And you know, I've never done as much risk mitigation with these. These are two big calls for the business, for both businesses really, and I've had the bandwidth, the clarity to actually go, right, this is what I'm going to do. But before I do it and before I take action and jump in tactically, I've been able to risk assess as well and go, right, what could go wrong? How can I minimize that? And what do I need to do in order to make sure that they don't go wrong? And that's something I wouldn't have done in the past. So that's been really pleasing to see as well. So next week, last full week, my last Saturday, I hate Saturdays on this thing. Saturday is the only day actually that I probably dislike on this challenge. So one more full week, should be all right in paper. And then the following week, we finish on Patrick's Day on the Thursday at midnight. So hopefully I'll be asleep at midnight and I won't be going down to the Irish Centre to undo 75 days of abstaining from alcohol. So yeah, fingers crossed, should be all right. Another good week ahead, and just keep ticking the days off.